And their lead guitar player is in Minnesota, so it's just their singer and bass player.
They put out a video not that long ago, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
It was good. They're like kind of like emo, kind of
yeah, they're really good.
punkish.
Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
So,
well, it's not awesome that they're
right
breaking up, but
I'm pretty sure that
a new pool of musicians is opening up for the world.
Do you play guitar?
Yeah. I played rhythm guitar and sang in Better Ideas, but I started out on drums actually.
Oh, cool.
So I started playing drums when I was in like 5th grade, and I was super into that, and I still probably feel the most comfortable behind a drum set than anything else.
Yeah.
But then when I was 12, my mom met my stepdad, and he played guitar, and so we were always jamming, and then he taught me some power chords, and then I kind of started teaching myself at that point. So I play a little bit of everything, basically, but I started out as a percussionist.
Okay.
So I went to school in McLouth, and at the time, when I was in 5th grade there were no one tried out for drums. I was the only one. And so it was like, there was like 30 people in my class. It was a tiny school. And we would play concerts. And because I was the only percussionist, I had like a snare drum, and I had a wood block on my snare and a triangle hanging from the stand. And then I had the big like cowhide bass drum right next to it. Yeah. And I played like as many parts as I could.
Oh, dude.
Until finally, when I was in like 6th grade, the teacher's like, you just need to play the drum set. You need to figure it out. But I had never played a drum set at that point.
Yeah.
Until 6th grade. Then I moved to Tongi and I joined a band. And then I've just been in bands ever since, like playing rock and roll, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, my story's a little bit different. I 5th grade going into 6th grade, it's just like, that's when you get to choose like what you want to do for 6th grade band. And I told the instructor who was also at the time the high school band instructor, I was like, I want to play drums. He's like, we don't need a band full of drummers.
Yeah.
So I was like,
so did you have too many drummers at that point? Or?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So that's my understanding is normally when you're in 5th grade, everybody wants to play drums.
Yeah.
So I didn't get like, why am I the only drummer? That's
exactly.
so weird.
So I told him, I was like, yeah, I guess I'll play trumpet. And then I went home that same day and told my mom, and she's like, no, you're playing drums.
Yeah.
So like I didn't do 6th grade band. So I did like private lessons
Oh yeah.
for like a couple years, and then joined up in 7th grade band. Just learned, like, my teacher at the time, Brad Shores, he's a really cool guy, and he was like, he was wanting to teach me rudiments, and at the time I should have been like, okay, yeah. Stupid. But I was like, no, I just want to go straight to the drum set. So I did that. And then I think I only did that for maybe about a year, and then I just did like self-taught stuff. Like, because I grew up in the early 2000s emo scene, so I have to have a double pedal and learn all the cool songs.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So then did you not continue in like band class after that? Or?
No, I still did. Yeah. Like 7th, 8th grade, I think I tried out for jazz band, but didn't get the cut. I got cut. So,
okay.
But then I went into high school band, like marching, and I played bass all 4 years, which was really cool because I think is a lot of people think that like snare is really hard because like I think a lot of people are scared to do traditional grip.
Yeah.
But I think the tonal bass drums is something that I think is a little bit more complicated because you have to count so much more because of the runs that are going down the line from the top to the bottom.
And the bass drum's not always on the downbeat. You know, it's kind of sometimes an accent or more of a compliment to like what the snare and all the other parts are doing. So you have to, like, because I did marching band too. I was lead snare for a year, and then you just regular snare most of the time, and played, cymbals and xylophone and got moved around a lot. But I did notice that like when you're marching, it was always weird because your left foot starts on the downbeat, like that's traditional marching. Yep. But then your right hand is usually what starts like any roll or any 16th note or anything like that on the drum. But with the bass drum, it's even more complicated because you're not always starting on the offbeat, or you're alternating in a way to where it's so hard to keep your left foot as the downbeat and then like still maintain that rhythm that's like supporting the rest of the band. And when the bass drum's off, like the whole band's off.
Our high school instructor used to ring us pretty hard because we didn't have like the bass drum runs down. His saying would be, what was it? You sound like a dryer, or you sound like shoes in a dryer. So, and
very inconsistent.
Oh yeah. So that was pretty embarrassing when we had to play those parts in front of the whole entire band and just get, I'm like, oh god.
Okay, well that's awesome. That actually leads me like that's pretty much what I was gonna start the conversation out with, was just asking like how you got into playing drums. So it was from band, and was that was your first kind of introduction to music, or were you into music before you started playing drums?
Way into music. I think the very first like artist that I can remember in my head that I like grasped onto was Garth Brooks.
Okay.
So I saw a few of his shows as a kid, and then I remember seeing his drummer, which he still does this to this date at their shows, but he is in like this glass cage. I just thought it was the coolest thing, and he had like so many drums and cymbals, which I mean I don't use that today. I'm basic, but I just thought that was the coolest thing, and so I just remember I'm like, well, I want to learn drums now, and so I remember like as a kid I would get like Chinese chopsticks and pretend I had drumsticks and whatnot. But then I think as I got older I started listening to more like 80s music. So like my mom had, I grabbed like her Loverboy record, and you know, Everyone's Working for the Weekend, and started latching onto the 80s. And kind of just moved through country to pop to rock, and rock is where I pretty much stayed. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then how did that lead into getting into the Dear Misses?
Well, honestly, the Dear Misses is actually my first band.
Really?
I've never played in a band before. My first job, I met this guy. His name is Matt, and we had the very similar taste in music, like Taking Back Sunday, and at the time, Brand New. Don't listen to those guys anymore.
You don't?
No, I can't after the whole
Oh,
Jesse
yeah.
thing. So.
See, I try to just stay out of that because I freaking love their music.
At times, I will probably see myself. If I put my iPhone on shuffle and play through music, I think that comes.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know the gist of that whole story, like everything that went down.
Yeah.
Because I'm a late bloomer when it comes to emo. I've literally listened to music backwards my whole life. Like when I got super into it, it was like, well, in the beginning, it was just like whatever was on the radio is what I was into. And so at the time, it was like Blink, and that was kind of the punk rock, like Blink and Green Day and stuff like that. And I feel like I'm just now getting into like 2000s emo and like the earlier stuff. So it's weird because I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to the drama on like Brand New and stuff like that. But their new album is just, it's amazing, dude. Okay. It's so good.
Off the subject, but on their new album, what's really crazy is I think the song is Can't Get It Out, I think.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, my guitarist Cody was listening to the album, and I was somewhere in the house, like I think the kitchen. He's like, Bret, holy crap, come here. I'm like, what's up? Like he just like freaked me out. He's like, listen to this. It's like, because it's, you know, the track had just released, and we listened to it. He's like, what does this sound like? I started listening to the riff, to the bass riff, and I'm like, wow, that actually sounds like the beginning riff of our song called Stage Fright. So
where it goes from G to like B. Yes.
So I was like, yeah. I was like, because it's like,
dude,
dun, dun, dun,
that's
dun,
so
dun,
weird. Because when I was doing my research, you know, trying to get caught up on all of your guys' stuff for this episode, and I listened to that song, and was like, oh, that's like the exact same kind of intervals, I guess, for the verses. And it reminded me of it a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
It's crazy.
So I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Dude, that is insane. All right, so anyways, you meet Matt, and you guys like some of the same music, and somehow this leads to starting a band, or?
We just, honestly, the furthest we got was jamming. And it was just us two. We didn't get like anybody. We had like a couple friends like record us on their digital camera. And actually those videos are on my Facebook. So you'll see those. You can see those videos if you go to my Facebook profile. But all we did, we just took inspiration from like Taking Back Sunday, The Used, Brand New, some other bands, and so we kind of just wrote music around that. We had a good time, but yeah, we just never. The wheels were going, but the car didn't take us anywhere. So we kind of just left it at that, and we both went our separate ways. And like I said, eventually I moved from Hutch to Lawrence. So
okay, and so is that how you met all the? Well, you said all the guys from Dear Misses are from Hutch, also, right?
Yeah. So Todd was actually my drum major in marching band, and I was like so intimidated by him because he was so good at drums.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Cody actually was a football player. And And then Shane's from Lindsborg, so just like 20 minutes outside of Hutch. But I never knew him until I actually met the guys in 222.
Oh, okay.
So like 2010. But yeah, so Cody, Todd, and I are from Hutch. We really didn't know each other all that well. I just knew Todd. He was my drum major. He was awesome. Cody, I knew through my brother because my brother was the same age as Cody. But we didn't really become like friends until like I moved to Lawrence in 2010. So that's when we kind of all started talking and jamming. And Todd and Cody were in this band called Left on Northwood.
Okay.
So at the end of Left on Northwood, Todd had kind of started writing acoustic songs that ended up being the Dear Mrs. tracks.
Okay.
So, but I was only in Lawrence for about 2.5 years. Then I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico for a girlfriend at the time. Didn't work out. So I moved from Santa Fe back to Hutch. Was there for about 9 months, and I knew it was like, this is only a way station. I'm going to move somewhere else again.
Yeah.
So I moved back to Lawrence because Todd and Cody heard that I was back, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get this project off the ground. Come play drums for it. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like the reason why I moved back to Lawrence again in 2014 was to help them start this project. So that's kind of where it all started. And then I moved back, and then we started jamming in my basement, and then we actually recorded some of the tracks that you hear on Just Let Go in my basement. So.
Okay, and that's the full length.
Yeah,
so you guys, okay, that's the next thing I was going to ask about, because you guys have a full length album, which a lot of like local bands just don't. It's usually EPs, and so from what it sounds like, you guys recorded it yourself.
Yeah, we didn't have like a budget or any money to do it.
Yeah,
but luckily Todd had Pro Tools, and so we were able just to plug in and record everything like that. All the drums are actually electronic. So
samples.
We just did it on his electronic roll-in kit, and then we just like mixed the stems and everything.
Yeah.
So no acoustic drums were on that record, but we did everything by ourselves. I felt so bad for Todd because he mixed every single song.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
It is so. I mean, that was a lot. I felt so bad because there was like so many mixes for every song. You know, there's probably about 30 mixes per song. So and we had 10 songs on that record. So
dang, yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So how long did it take? Like, what was the recording process like when you're doing it all yourself? Because like my last band, we tried for so many different times to record ourselves, but none of us really had the like knowledge to know how to work like Pro Tools. Like I've been using GarageBand forever. I finally got Logic somewhat recently. Bad timing because it was after the band broke up. But like we tried the whole library thing for a little bit and all that. So like, did Todd have any education in Logic, or was it all just kind of DIY, like learn it as you go? Like, was that kind of your first experience with recording a full length?
Yeah, I think he learned everything for Pro Tools. Like he just went through and worked out the bugs for recording, and he got it down pretty well, because like whenever I watched him record, I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing good. So no, it was kudos to him because he just spent so much time on that record and mixing it, producing. Well, I think Shane actually mastered. He has a mastering program that we mastered with. But but just sitting down there and watching him record and in his element was really cool to see that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you guys just put out a new single. So how'd you record that? Did you also do that yourself? Or
No. So that was different because I was super excited about it all kind of started Mr.
All the Same, by the way.
Yeah.
Check it out.
So our friends, Sweet Ascent, their producer
Kevin
Gates was doing a promotion for like the new year where like submit your demo and then the top 5 out of those submissions will be put up for a vote. Whoever wins the vote will get a free recording. So I'm like, this is perfect. We've got like at least a few demos that we can do this for. So we talked about it and we thought, we have this track All the Same that's pretty much finished. it was a little bit lengthy. We tend to write really long songs. I think the longest song we have is about 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, and if any of the stories are correct from Jordan, Kevin will just say, "Yep, cut that, cut that. That's trash." He'll let you do everything once.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
I think that sounds about right from what I remember talking with Jake and Jordan about that.
Yeah.
So they had a time limit, which is 4 minutes. I think at the time all the same was the run time was about 5.5 minutes.
Okay.
So we had to shave and do things differently. So we cut it down to 4 minutes. Submitted it. We went through the whole voting process. We ended up losing. So we're like, oh, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, man.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, I somehow came across this Facebook post that some other friends had entered in or liked, and it was so Matt Richards runs Avenue Record Company in Kansas City at his home, and he has this little thing that he's doing where tag your band, tag an individual, and the more tags the better. I'll throw it into a randomizer, and then whatever it lands on is the winner of this prize, which is 2 free songs recorded, produced, mixed, and mastered.
Wow.
So I was looking at the entries. I'm like, man, there's this one band that has like 30, 40 entries. I'm like, let's try. So I was like, having people tag us in there if they could, if they wanted, close friends and family, and somehow we won. It was really cool. Randomizer.
That's awesome. So you got two recordings then? 2
recordings, yeah.
So does that mean you guys are working on another one right now, or?
Yes, Todd finally went in and put vocals down on the second song.
Awesome.
So I think there's probably one more section that we have to put vocals to, and then it's off to post-production. But so we won this, and we met with Matt, awesome guy, again, Avenue Record Company in Kansas City, and we talked about kind of, what we were looking at, and we gave him some songs that we've been working on, and then we decided on All the Same, and then another song that we have that'll be coming out soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
We started tracking. So that was actually what we recorded was my actual first time in a studio. I've never recorded in a studio.
Yeah. And so you got to do you got to bring your drums in and all that and mic them up, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So did he? I know most producers do, so it might be a stupid question, but did he take your original drums and then kind of mix some samples in with it, or like is it raw drums?
It's raw drums. That was a really cool thing.
That's awesome.
So I for the longest time I've taken pride in tuning. Like I'm obsessed with just making sure that like it sounds right, it sounds good. Yeah. That was kind of like in a first initial meeting we had. It was like, we might have to sample your drums out. It just depends. But we went in there and I'm like, will we have to sample these? And he's like, no, dude. And he's like, it sounds really good. I'm not going to do anything to that.
Awesome,
so
dude.
I felt really proud just because I spent all this time, all these years, like tuning by ear and just making sure that everything sounds really good.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's definitely a rarity because I've only worked with a few different producers. I worked with John Eddy, who was Sweet Ascent's old guitarist.
Oh, okay.
And I guess Kevin taught him a lot of stuff. And I remember going in and so our drummer quit like halfway through recording this EP, and so he was on the first single that we released, and then the rest of the songs that only one of them ended up getting released because the band just didn't make it through the whole recording process. But I did play drums on every song, and then I remember coming over a while ago, and I guess my drum, like, you know how producers are, they're like, if it doesn't sound good, they're just gonna replace it. And I'm like heartbroken because I'm like, wait, what happened to like that fill or what? Yeah, what happened here? And he's like, well, dude, they weren't tuned right. Like I had to sample everything. And I'm like, what? Like, it's kind of a bummer. But I also get it because I feel like nowadays the music industry, or just in general, like just people, like consumers that listen to music, they kind of expect a certain quality. And it's a bummer because I feel like most artists, especially drummers, they just want to hear them. They want to hear themselves, and they want to hear that like authentic sound. But it's really hard to get that without spending thousands of dollars on like proper, brand new drum heads every time you record a song, and knowing exactly how to tune everything, getting the right mics and the right producer and the right room and all of that. So it's like kind of a catch-22 of like how raw can you make a song or how authentic can you make it without overproducing it,
right?
And then how do you put the right amount of production on it? That's something I've always been really curious about and kind of scared to do, because I've been working on basically just kind of a demo EP, like kind of a solo thing, and I really want to record it. But that's something I'm afraid of, is I've got the demo-itis where I like the way that it sounds, even though it sounds terrible. Like, right, but it's like, it's real, you know? So it's like when you're looking for a producer, you're ready to record an album, you kind of have to like let go of your art, yes, in a way, because you know it's going to be completely different probably from how it started in its beginning stages. Yeah. So like, is that something that you guys have dealt with in the studio? Like, have you, well, I guess you did the whole first album on your own, so it was probably exactly what you wanted and like exactly how you knew how to play it. But like with the, what was the production company again, or the recording studio? Avenue. Yeah. How was that? Like, how is that working with somebody who might be, you know, might have their own influence and stuff like that on your music?
Matt was actually really cool about letting us do what we'd actually originally written.
That's awesome.
So as far as like changing things, there wasn't really a lot of changes. You know, we might have layered a couple things that are actually on the final recording of all the same from what we actually had on the original demo, but everything that we had written or changed so many times on that song actually made the song. So there's just maybe the first verse is actually something that we didn't plan on having in there, but it's on the song. But everything else is originally how we wrote it, which is really cool. So he doesn't really go in there. Yeah, I mean, he'll suggest things, obviously, because it's nice to have an outside perspective of your music.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the one thing that we were desperately missing from Just Let Go, the record. So it was really nice having him there to say, you know, what to do, what not to do, which is really cool.
Yeah,
so, but
for sure.
Other than that, like I said, just having the original product in there from what we did demoing wise was there.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So what's your guys' writing process like then? Does it, because you said, what's the singer's name? Todd. You said he wrote like acoustic stuff originally, and then you guys, I'm assuming, kind of took the bones of that and then like added, you know, more electric guitars and your drum parts. So is that like how your songs start initially most of the time, or is it kind of a collective thing? Like you guys all write in the same room, like together?
Yeah, I think, well, originally Todd had like an acoustic. Cody has this magical mind of like, once you give something to him, he'll spend an evening or two, he can pump out a full song really quickly.
That's cool.
Like if he's off for a day and he's like, I'm inspired, I'm going to write a song, like he can get pretty much half a song to a song written in a day.
That's cool.
So that's what he did with Todd's stuff.
And he's your guitarist?
Yeah, lead guitarist.
Okay.
Yeah.
That dude plays crazy.
He does.
He's the one that plays upside down, right?
Upside down,
psychedelic. Yeah. Like I've seen him before he was in your guys' band. Was he in it like a long time ago? And did he take a break, or did he just join a little bit later? Because I saw him with Get Busy Living like a really long time ago, and I think I saw him with another band too. Was it 222 or?
Yeah, he did stuff with Get Busy Living, which is now Renegades.
Okay.
They've kind of gone through some changes. But
okay, I didn't even realize that. I'm kind of out of the loop right now.
So he did stuff with Chase from Get Busy Living, and then he also did play as a second guitarist for 222.
Okay.
Back a while ago. So
yeah.
But he was in a band with Todd. So Todd was the drummer in Left on Northwood, and Cody was the bass player.
Okay.
So on this new project, Todd moved from drums to front man, and Cody went from bass to lead guitar.
Okay.
So, but they wrote most of that stuff, just the two of them.
Oh, okay.
Demoed it out. But writing process, like we all kind of have our own ideas. So Cody has a lot of the stuff that he's written. So we kind of he'll have ideas, he'll put them out, and like it's like, hey, this is what I wrote. Like, what do you guys think? You know, we'll kind of maybe if we need to make changes, we'll make changes. Todd just has like, he's shown us on multiple occasions. He's got like this massive list on his phone of just like clips of him playing like something on acoustic or piano. He's got like 30 to 40 ideas at a time. So he's off in his own world writing music whenever he's got an idea, and he will record it as soon as possible. But as far as like me and Todd can actually collaborate on the drums. So like even if he does like record a demo, like we'll talk about it back and forth and say, like change parts or keep it the same. Just, because I feel like it's like that Dave Grohl, early Foo Fighters. No, not really. It's not like we don't butt heads like his old drummer and like he gets kicked out, but it's just like he's a drummer at heart.
Yeah.
So like he likes to have like that. He knows the root of all the songs, which is cool. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
so, but
yeah, dude, that's cool. I actually relate to that a lot because, like, I was a drummer also, and then I became the front man of this band. I was a drummer in every other band before that, and then my last one was I was singing and playing rhythm. But I am a drummer first, probably.
Yeah.
So, especially when you're like a singer and a kind of a rhythm guitarist and you're playing rock and roll, like the drums kind of write themselves for a lot of it, like especially if you have like a palm muted kind of chunky riff or something, then you kind of know where the kick drums needs to go or the snare, kind of what is going to complement it. So I totally, well, I guess my drummer probably felt your pain a little bit on like, hey, don't make up your own fill there. Like play the one I had originally, or like that kind of working together with another drummer, especially when they're not the drummer in the band, but they are a drummer, and like that's probably a bridge you got to get over.
Yeah, and honestly, Todd and Cody both just said at the beginning, like you can make it whatever you want. Like if you want to change something on these songs that we had written, it was just the first 10 songs on Just Let Go.
Yeah.
And he's like, put your flavor on it. Do whatever you want to do. So I'm like, cool. And I didn't really. I'd rather just like. At the time, I was super nervous because I just moved back again from New Mexico, and I hadn't really touched my drums in like a year.
Yeah.
So I sucked.
Girlfriends, man.
I know. Yeah, jeez. And I didn't have my drums because my drums are in Kansas because there's no basements in New Mexico. They don't have to worry about tornadoes.
Oh, dang.
So
yeah.
But eventually I got them down, and I played a little bit, but not as much as I do now. But I got back and I sucked. I couldn't even play. I think Cody came over because his parents live 5 blocks away from where my mom lives. So that's when I moved back to Hutch. He came down from Lawrence, and we started practicing. The first thing he showed me was our song Devil. And they're like this groove I just could not play for the life of me, but they gave me all the songs that they had, and I worked on them every single day for probably about 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Just to get the parts right. I had to relearn grooves, syncopations, and it was brutal, but it was something fun to, like put my head down and like, cause I'm a drummer, I've been playing. I wanted to like give up so many times, but like these guys have given me an opportunity to like be the drummer and whatnot. So yeah, I kept my head down and just kept practicing all those songs. I think there's 10 or 12 songs. I practiced for about 2 or 3 months just to make sure that it was a fully functional song. So,
yeah. And I feel like I've never had to I've never joined a band that already had a lot of songs already written, but I did do. I played bass for Sweet Ascent for a project that's not out yet. I don't know why. Hurry up, guys. But like just the kind of nerves of like trying to learn these parts, and I played bass, so it wasn't like the most important, but if it's off, you're gonna be able to tell, especially if you like earn a car, have decent speakers.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being the drummer and having to learn these songs like right before a show or before something like that, because it's like if the drums mess up or like anything, it's so obvious and like so scary to think about. Like, all right, hey, you want to be a fill-in drummer? We got a show in a month. And learn these 10 songs, and I would be so nervous to know like where all the stops and starts are, like where the breaks are, where the fills are. Anytime the drums are supposed to just fade out completely. What if you keep playing right there? Like that's terrifying.
Yeah, I actually, and fast forward, and we finally played our first show as a band in 2015 at the Jackpot. Is my first show ever. I'd never played an actual like appropriate show.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I was so nervous. I was just like sweating so much, and I was stretching because we were about to go on, and I'm like, so I was freaking out. I'm like, can I hear the monitor? I mean, I know the wedge is right here, but am I gonna be able to hear everything?
Yeah.
So that's how much in my head I was. But I think I messed up a couple of times at our first show, but it was pretty cool, man. That was one of the best feelings in the world, and getting on the stage now is I'm not as nervous as that first show was.
Yeah.
That got to me really bad. But like, I think halfway through our show, I felt more comfortable and we got through it. So
yeah, that's awesome. I wonder how many bands had their first show at the Jackpot. Is it like everyone around here?
I feel like it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our first one, and yeah, it's just kind of kickstarted from there to where we are now, which is pretty cool. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, what would you say are like the best and the worst parts of being a drummer in a band? Start with maybe either one, actually. Either one.
The worst part in my bandmates, and I think anybody that has been in a band can say like, "Oh, I agree with that," is helping your drummer out, like with all of his equipment, because we have so many pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
You know, so carrying like my just loading and getting it into the venue, out of the venue, because I think I have some pretty heavy duty hardware, and I think my hardware bag weighs about 180 pounds.
Jeez.
So I think that's the worst thing, and then taking it upstairs if you have to take it upstairs, which I've had to do at least a couple, especially like we played at the Homegrown Buzz Music Showcase in Kansas City for 96.5 The Buzz, and I had to take my hardware up the flights of the stairs in Power and Light. So if you've ever been there, know what those stairs looks like.
It's crazy,
really bad. Yeah,
that's insane.
I would say, I don't know. I like being loud, so I guess the drums are, for me, that's kind of I never really wanted anybody to ever hear me play drums, which is like the stupidest reasoning. And I'm like, you're playing the loudest instrument.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
People are going to hear you.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's just like the best thing is just like being so creative. Like there's so many things you can do on the drums. I mean, with any instrument really, but I don't know what it is about drums that I just like hitting super, well, not really hard. I like to serve the music and be dynamic, but it's just something about bashing stuff.
Yeah. So it's like an energy thing.
Yeah.
You know? Like, do you feel like something gets let out? You know, like like something's flowing through you when you're playing drums? Like, I don't know. Like, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I want to start asking more musicians this, because it's always a different answer, and maybe it's kind of a both and thing. But I've always wondered if music, especially with drums, because you don't think about drums when you're doing it. You know, you might think about it like the process of it when you're writing or when you're practicing to learn a song, but once you know it, it just kind of happens.
Right.
So I'm like wondering, do you think that music is something that it's like a feeling or an emotion, something that flows through you, or is it something that you're creating? Like, what is it? I guess, what does it mean to be creative in that way? Like, do you think, like, when you're playing drums, are you playing the drums, or the drums just like kind of being played, and you're just like the vessel for that sound? Like,
I feel like I'm the vessel sometimes more than anything. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I get super lost in it. Like, I'm there, but like, it's just. The experience is, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to really describe it, but like, yeah, when I'm playing, man, it's just, I don't know. It's not.
It's hard. It is. It's like
really
it's a very meta question. So that's part of it.
No,
But I've been trying to figure that out, because I used to ask this question. I asked Zach Mayfield this in one of the first episodes, where I was like, if you were the only guy left on Earth, would you make art? And that, I think, kind of relates to that question, because that brings up like, well, do you make art for you, or do you make it for other people? And today I was thinking about it before this podcast, and I'm like, well, I used to say that I would still create art if I was the only person on the planet, because I used to make art when I was in my room by myself, and I did it a ton for my own amusement. But then, as the more I have been thinking about it, I see it as something that sort of comes through as like a message that we're supposed to share with other people.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there would be any point if there's no one else to share it with, because it seems like art, or music especially, is a way, sort of an indirect way to describe the world, or whatever you're going through, whatever is hard, whatever you hate, whatever you love, whatever it is. And so I don't know if there would be a reason for it if not to share with other people, which makes me... which brings me to my first question, is like, what is music? Like, what is this thing that we're doing that's like just making noises? Like, is it something that we're doing, or is it just something that happens and we just get to be there to like witness it? Because I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I know how to play music. Like I, I did band class and I understand some of the theories at the theory aspect of it. But when I'm actually doing it, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I just feel like it's kind of happening.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel with the happening because it's a creative process. So you
Yeah.
kind of just, get to figure out the bad parts and the good parts. But the whole thing with like making art for you or for someone else, I always felt like it's just for you. And if other people like it, then they like it. I feel like that's like what most, like my favorite, well, I know it's my favorite band, but I think it's Todd and Cody's, but our favorite band is Thrice.
Okay.
And I know like they started, I mean, they're from Orange County. So their biggest thing, influences that were punk back in the 90s. So they went from being like a punk band to a hard rock band to more like, they got really, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Experimental. Yeah. With like some of the concept albums. But they've changed. They never stayed the same. But they're writing music for themselves. Yeah. Which is great. And I think that goes for all bands. They'll write music. I think I can think of another band like A Day to Remember. Like they were really, I'm not sure really how to describe what their earlier stuff was.
I would almost call it like pop punk or something.
Yeah. So like when they changed from that, people are like, what is this? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, well, they're making music for themselves, not for you. Like if you like it, that's cool. If not, then I mean.
Yeah, that's so true. And then I feel like whenever an artist writes for other people, it's kind of when they lose whatever they had in the first place. Yeah. And I think that happens to a lot of bands, which is why they always say that the second album is kind of like what makes or breaks them. And I think it's because like once you've put out something that's like authentic and genuine and it's you and it was for you, and that's everyone's first album because you didn't know if anyone was going to like it. So you wrote what you like. Yeah. And then if people like it and it kind of gets a little bit of a following, then I think a lot of artists kind of get this idea in their head of like, well, I need to either do something drastically different to get people's attention or I need to kind of do more of the same. But either way, they're thinking about those other people when they're writing and they're not just thinking about what do I want to do. Right. And then so they kind of lose that like spark, whatever that was that made them awesome or interesting in the first place is kind of like being kind of distorted by like this worry of like, well, are they going to like it or like, and so I think you're right. Like, I think you're definitely onto something with like, you need to write, like if you're going to make art, even if it's not music, it needs to be like for you initially. But maybe with the ultimate goal of sharing it with other people to possibly relate to it. But if you have those other people in mind when you write it, it sort of taints it. It kind of taints the creativity and takes away from what you would have done if there were no circumstances that made you want to change things. Yeah. That's crazy to me. Like it's such a hard thing because, like that idea of like, if you're the last man on earth, what are you going to make? It's going to be crazy because you don't have to worry about anyone. That's true. You don't have to worry about anyone hearing it. So, like, is that what the best artists do? Do they just like make whatever they want to make without any like care about what other people are going to think and then just release that to the world and just see like what they think? Like, I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I feel like when we were just talking about that, the first person I thought about was Jim Carey. Because a lot of people don't know that he actually does art.
Yeah, he's a great painter.
He really is, and it's a lot of people think he's a super eccentric, but they're also disappointed at the same time that he's not like this goofball like he was in Ace Ventura or any of his other movies. But he's a creative artist. He creates art about what's going on in the world, but also he does it for himself. I mean, if no one's ever seen Jim Carrey paint, like YouTube it, watch it.
Yeah,
it's
dude,
insane.
Did you watch his documentary? It's called like Me and Andy or something like that.
Yeah, when he was
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, what'd you think about that?
That was crazy,
wasn't it?
He dove into another
dimension.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, and just stayed there. He's in character. He's a very just. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So what do you think it is? Because I feel like a lot of people, I want to talk about this for a long time,
Yeah.
actually, because I feel like a lot of people think that he's kind of lost it. But what I hear him saying are like fundamental truths of like the universe.
Yep.
And I feel like he's trying to kind of be like this kind of Alan Watts or like Terrence McKenna type, like a guru almost. And I can't tell if it's genuine or if like he's just assuming that role, or like, did he really wake up? Like, is he enlightened? Would you say? Like,
I feel, yeah. And I think that's where the point, like, because I think the first time I really got a dose of kind of what we're talking about was, my girlfriend was saying that like one of her coworkers was talking about Jerry Seinfeld's new show on Netflix.
Oh, the
called riding
in
cars, getting coffee with celebrities or something like that.
Yeah, with comedians. I think. Yeah.
And the first episode was with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
So, and I guess one of her coworkers was saying that he's very eccentric, he's weird.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know, I don't think that's him. So I watched the episode, and then I was listening to what he was saying to Jerry Seinfeld. And I'm like, this dude's not weird. He's like speaking the truth. He's very like I said, he's not like the character like you saw on like The Mask, or he's a person. Yeah. And he has, just these thoughts that are very truthful, and there's nothing wrong with
I feel like we're just at a time in history where the truth is weird.
Yeah.
Like, because what, like, every time we've had a messiah figure, or like, like a Jesus or a Buddha or a Muhammad, or, I'd even put MLK up there, like, they all had their flaws or whatever. But at the time, they were weird. They were the weirdos.
Yeah.
And I feel like someday we're going to look back and be like, dang, that Jim Carrey, like, he was on to something. He was on to like some metaphysical truths. Yeah. But because he's so funny and goofy, we can't take him seriously.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might be kind of what helped him get to the point that he's at, because he doesn't take himself seriously. And I think that's why it's so easy for him to just go. Like, did you see... He went to this, it was like some red carpet award thing or something. He got all dressed up. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think you're talking about. So he goes to this event, and he lets some lady interview her. He just shows up. It has like nothing to do with him. He's like, yeah, I wanted to come to the most material and just useless event that I could possibly find, and put on a nice suit and just, come and just act useless, come and waste my time. And he's just like making fun of it. And the world doesn't know how to receive it. Yeah. And it's because like it's like a social experiment. Yeah. He's like poking fun at just how weird all of this is, like reality, our government, our media, TV personalities. And like he is at the forefront of, Hollywood. And so I think he knows firsthand like how weird all of this is. Yeah. So it was so cool to see him just go and like dissect it in a kind of comedic, like social experiment sort of way. Yeah.
And I think because of that, people took that whole thing the other way, and like Jim Carrey goes off on a reporter.
Yeah. They tried to paint him out like a bad guy or something. I was
like, that's not what he's doing.
Yeah. And I don't think it had anything to do with the reporter. I think she was just kind of caught in the crossfire of like, I think he went there with that intent. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to just expose how weird and pointless all of this is. Yeah. And I think he did a pretty good job.
No, he did. Yeah. Still a big fan of Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Yeah, same. So if anyone hasn't seen, is it called Jim and Andy?
Or Me and Andy?
Me and Andy? Something like that. Just check out the Jim Carrey documentary, because it's amazing. Really and don't judge him, okay? He's just a goofy guy. Oh, man. Yeah, I like all that type of stuff. Like, I'm super into, like, Alan Watts. I don't know if you ever listened to any of his lectures, but he's kind of the guy that brought Buddhism, or the idea of Zen Buddhism. He Americanized it essentially, and like kind of made it, tangible in a way that we can understand it and process it. And so like in the 60s, he's kind of the reason for like those like kind of uppity like Zen type hippie people, in a good way, but also in a bad way. But I love all that stuff. And I think that music is like one of the outlets of something that is some sort of metaphysical truth. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm so interested in talking to artists all the time, is because I feel like by having conversations with other artists, it's the best way to learn about like where that comes from. Cause like I'm on a mission, you know, like I want to know what inspires people, like what causes you to create, what comes through when you're trying to be creative and you're trying to make something like that. And are you hitting on some of the same truths or some of the same energies, I guess you could say, that, you know, people like Jim Carey or Alan Watts or Buddha or Jesus or any of those people are hitting on. And I don't know, it's just a theory at this point, but I have got some ideas about like just why music affects us in the way that it does. And it's really cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever met anybody that doesn't like music? Like, does that exist? Like, I don't know.
I think in my lifetime, maybe one person, which I thought it was super strange why they didn't like music.
Yeah.
I don't know how it could survive life without music.
Yeah. So what do you think about all this? Like, what does music do for you? Like, if you could describe it, what is it?
Oh my God. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I've thought about that, where I've had moments to myself. I'm like, well, really, what is music? And like, I don't know, man. It's to think of like where it came from in the first place.
Yeah.
And to like where it is now, to like fill in the gaps of how it progressed.
Yeah.
From how it began and how it is now. But I could never truly answer that question.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like to this day, like one of my biggest questions is, I have no idea, and I can't come up with a good reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I know, but like, it still baffles me. But it's cool because like the music that, you know, whatever you create art wise, it can affect a person. So I think to me, like, there's been a lot of things in music that have like really like reached out and like grabbed my soul. And just was like
when you get the chills.
Yeah, man,
like
the chills.
Feeling.
Honestly, like I can tell you, like the first time I ever heard one of the songs off the record we released is called Throne, and it was just a demo. There was no vocals, but I heard the bridge kick in. For some reason, out of nowhere, I got really attached to it, and I started crying. I don't know why. Wow. But I just started crying, and that's no BS, but it's the truest thing. And I remember Cody having me listen to that song. And for some reason, I kind of let go. Yeah. I just started crying. I'm like, where did this come from?
Wow. And it's from one of your guys' songs.
One of our songs,
too.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's and to actually learn what it was about was it's a pretty Throne is. I mean, it's about. I think how Todd really described it was because him and his friends in high school lost a friend in high school. Oh wow. So it's kind of like him and, you know, the group trying to stay together to keep it together. And so there's a lot of references to, you know, losing someone. And I remember we played that at our first show, and my friend Jason, when he heard it, he had just lost his uncle probably about a month ago. And there was a part in the song where it says reach into the sky, toast, or something like that. I can't remember Todd's lyrics. I'm sorry, Todd. But like he told me about that. He's like, when I heard that, it made me cry. Wow. So I was like, wow. So yeah, I don't know what it is, man. Lyrics. Yeah. I don't know. And for like one of my friends to like have the same reaction I did to that part in the song too. Yeah. I was like, wow.
It's just crazy.
No, it is, man.
It is like, and I don't know, to me, it almost feels like a form of worship at that point. Like, even if you don't believe in a higher power or anything, it's like that energy that is everything. And it's like this is one outlet of that. And when you feel it, you know. And it's like everyone knows that feeling. And I think as an artist, like, to be able to be a vessel for that to come through is such an honor. It's such a cool thing to be able to bring that feeling to other people. Whether or not it's you, like, we don't really know. I think we've established that. But like you get to be a part of it. And that's such a cool thing. And that's like, I think that's what like going to shows and like local music is all about, is creating the space where that is possible for people to come and to have a song that they relate to, or it gives them the chills, or it makes them cry, or it makes them happy, or it makes them want to push all their buddies around into a chair, like whatever it is, it's like a release, but it's also something that's just like, it's like an answer to a problem, you know, like it's something that you didn't know you needed until you got it, and you're like, wow, that is cool.
No, it was really cool, because going to shows, like, I was like on the other end of the receiving part of that, but you know, like getting to feel the emotion, but then being on the stage and then giving that to people was just like, it was something different, man.
It's a whole different thing.
And you know that, so.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like I haven't played enough shows to get to the point where I was comfortable, like truly comfortable. I think that I've experienced like that kind of flow state you get into, you know, where you know, like the show's over and you're like, oh wait, where did that go? Where was I? Like, I forgot to enjoy it, you know? But I feel like that's a whole different thing, especially whenever an artist has been around for a while and that's their home, that's their comfort zone, is being on stage. Then I feel like you get a whole different energy, and they really do become like a vessel at that point. The best example I've ever seen of that is Green Day nowadays. I saw them in Omaha this past summer, or I guess it would have been the beginning of this summer on their last tour. Was it Revolution Radio tour?
Okay.
Yeah. And so I somehow went my whole life with never seeing Green Day, and I grew up listening to them constantly. And so when I saw them at the show, it was just like a blast from the past. You know, I'm like reliving my childhood. So I'm thinking about, you know, me and all my buddies in high school doing crazy stuff, and, you know, like relationships in school and like middle school and skateboarding. And like the first songs I ever learned on guitar were Green Day songs. And then like, there's just this moment. And so Jesus of Suburbia is like my all-time favorite Green Day song. It's like 16 minutes long or something like that.
Dude,
and there just is this part when it kind of goes to that, you know, that kind of mellower part where the xylophone comes in and it's like acoustic-y. And I just like look around and it just hit me. And I started tearing up, man. Like, and I'm like, why is this happening? I'm like, I'm crying at a Green Day show. Like, why am I doing this? But like, there's something about just like when you attach yourself to these sounds for so long, and then you get in a crowd of people and they all feel the same way about it. And then you see a band as seasoned as them, like they've been doing this for over 20 years at this point. And the way that they are on stage, it's like they're not even them. Like they're playing a role. And it's like they're a whole different person. And it's so cool to see that. Like, that's like the dream, I feel like, as an artist, is to get to that point to where when you go up there, it's like you're in a different world, but it's your world. Right. And it's such a cool just place to be. And it's cool to witness, but I hope to get there someday, you know, like, I don't know. How do you feel when you're on stage? Like, do you feel like, do you still get nervous before shows, or do you feel like you get in the flow, you know, and you're just kind of in the zone, or what?
Kind of. I think like the first show we ever played, I was super nervous since it was my first proper show at a club. Yeah. But more than anything, like, I'm good. Like, I'm fine now. Like, I mean, the most I do is stretch. I mean, I think it depends on, like, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of like centered myself when we're playing the day of a show, and I'm like, everything's cool, because I don't want to like overhype myself, because I feel like if I do that, then like I'm gonna get like super nervous and overthink things. So that's why I kind of just try to stay really calm and just think about nothing, and then get on the stage and play a show. But like, as I'm playing the show, I'm also thinking so far ahead, because as a drummer, there's like so many things you have to like, well, as any band member, but like as a drummer personally, I just really think about parts that are coming up. Yeah, because you're like, all right, I'm in the second verse, and the pre-chorus is a little bit different in this one. So you're like, you do have to think ahead. Yeah. So then, do you feel like that takes you out of the moment? Like, are you less present, or are there times when you're not thinking about what's coming next? You just do it. I think that there's some times where I'm both in the moment, because like I tend to not really look up a lot, because I can't see the crowd anyway. But like, I'll look at the bandmates sometimes, and we'll smile or do something. But I'm kind of just there in the moment playing my parts, or then again, like I'll take myself out of the moment. I don't know why. I just kind of go in and out, but thinking of things coming up and hoping that I don't screw them up. So
yeah, that's cool. That's cool, man. Okay, so we're getting towards the end, and I want to. I guess I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but tell me about getting on 96.5, because that's freaking awesome. Like, you guys seem to be getting a lot of radio play lately, and that's a really big deal.
Yeah, that was really cool, because how it all happened, there's something that started at Up Down, which is like a beer arcade in Kansas City near Crossroads. And they started doing this thing that's called Local Tuesdays. Joel is the guy who runs it, and they're like, if you want to get on it, shoot me a DM. So I did. He didn't get back to us till like 2 months later, but understandable, because he's trying to get this thing off the ground. So he's getting bigger bands in like the greeting committee.
Yeah.
And those guys.
Yeah, they are freaking awesome.
They're really awesome.
They're so good.
Love the greeting committee guys.
Yeah. Who doesn't, though? I feel like they have the most love.
Yes.
Like, people just love them. Like, I've never seen a local band with a Twitter following like that. Oh, it's insane.
Yeah. And
it's cool.
Them and Hembry.
Yeah, Hembry's. They're kind of more recent, though, right? Like, are they kind of just now getting bigger, or they've been around for a while, right?
Yeah, because they were a band before they were called Quiet Corral.
Okay.
And actually, my friend, high school guy that I went to Hutch with, his name's Jesse. He was actually the lead singer of that band. And like Isaac and some of the other guys were in that band, and then when that band split, it became Hembry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, those guys have been like on Apple commercials now for like the new speaker that they put out. But the greeting committee is just awesome. I love their stuff. They are. So they're blowing up. But so we finally got on. And what Jeremy does at the Buzz for Homegrown, she'll usually try to play the band that's coming in like that Tuesday. Like, she'll play because they have Homegrown on 96.5 on Sundays. Yeah. And she didn't know who we were, so she like DM'd us on Twitter, and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna play one of your songs," which is Stage Fright. So, and that's kind of how we all kind of just got on different radio stations. We're on actually here. We get played on Kiss FM here in Lawrence.
Okay.
96.5 The Buzz, 102.7 in Kearney, Missouri. Our Hutch hometown station plays us. I think the other alternative, 105.1, plays us every now and then.
Okay.
So, and then
cool. I didn't know they did local stuff, because they're a newer station.
Yeah, they do a Sunday show as well.
Awesome.
And then we got played, I think actually just today, 90.1 in Kansas City.
All right.
They're like a community radio station, and they play our stuff too.
So it seems like you guys have a very different route, or like sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a business plan or goals with your band, but you guys, and you mentioned that you guys are a little bit older, so maybe you're, not as interested in like hitting the road and being road dogs like like Sweet Ascent and Earth Groans and all those guys. Yeah. So like what is your, I guess, strategy behind all this? Like, is that kind of how you guys are choosing to make the career path, is like, let's just get radio play and play a lot of local stuff and kind of build the following here?
Yeah, I think like to build within, and then also if it does happen to reach out, because I think I've had a friend play us in LA too. But yeah, probably just grow within and then push out.
Okay.
I think is the way we're looking at it. Yeah, because we're like you said, we're older and families, and so I think we're trying to, since we're different in that way, we're trying to just find a way to do the music that way. So
yeah, well, and that's cool. Like I feel like music is changing so much that there isn't really a right or wrong way to do it anymore. So who knows? Like, that could work better than touring. 'Cause I've seen a lot of bands that will tour forever and never go anywhere. They play to empty rooms every time they play.
Yep.
And then I see bands that never play a show, and they get put on a Spotify playlist or something, and they kind of start blowing up. So like, who knows? Who knows at this point? I talked to Josh Hurst from Young Medicine. I had him on the show once, and they're kind of doing a similar thing too. Mm-hmm. Like their singer has I think Red Roof Productions, the recording studio.
Bret, right?
Yeah, Bret. So they're kind of doing a similar thing where they're starting out locally. Like they did a few, I think, tours, but they ultimately were like, we don't need to do that with the internet. You know, like we can build quite the following just staying local.
Yep.
And so I don't know, man, I'm really curious to see where that goes. Like, and it seems like now is probably the time to try that as an experiment because you have the internet, you can reach anybody anywhere. So I don't see why not, you know, just go for it, even if you're not touring.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like how we approach shows too, is like we kind of I think you can be picky and choosy about what you do. And I think that's just because we have families, like there's kind of that aspect.
Yeah,
so like we have a show coming up in August. We're finally playing the Granada, which we're super, super stoked about. And thanks to Vigil and Thieves, they're a local band too. And they're doing an album release. So that's like my other mates have played that stage before. I'm the only one who hasn't. Everything in this band is like the first for me. Like first we're playing Jackpot, Bottleneck, and you know, Kansas City venues, and now it's the Granada. So, but yeah, kind of just picking and choosing the path, I think is, and like you said, the internet, man, that's the biggest thing because that's the new media, you know, and it has been for quite a while. But yeah, so I think we'll just stick with recording and then putting everything out our own because that's, you know, I think that's what a lot of people do, and which is a good thing. So yeah,
definitely. So what is your favorite or like biggest accomplishment that you guys have had so far?
Honestly, I think we're still pretty jazzed about, and I can't believe we use jazz, but that we made it onto the Buzz, because I think all of us in the band had been listening to the Buzz for so long. Yeah. And the fact that now we get played on it, like that's so cool, and like the DJs advocate for us, and I think that's just the coolest thing. But I think it's radio. I think that's the coolest avenue that you can get put on radio. Yeah, that is cool. I mean, that may be just me, but I think the other guys can probably say that same thing too. So, but I mean, just in general, writing and being in a band and making music and people liking it, I think that's a huge accomplishment in itself as well. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, one more. What advice would you have for a drummer or just any musician starting out today? Like for young musicians out there, if you could give them a couple tips, what would that be?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've been thinking about lately is trying to learn from a lot of people. Like, because there's so many people that their knowledge about music or an instrument, I mean, you can just, I often ask a lot of drummers so many questions, whether if they're a beginner, expert, intermediate, whatever. Like, I always try to like obtain as much knowledge as possible because I don't know everything. Yeah. And I'm still trying to obtain all this knowledge about, you know, drums and music and all this, but just listen and also listen to, like, a lot of people say listen to all kinds of music. That really does help. True. Yeah. But also take time, practice, because if you don't practice, I mean, there's put time into it.
Yeah. If you're put in the work.
Yeah, exactly. Because it'll get you somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of the tips I have.
Cool, dude. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get out of here, though, or end this, where can everyone go to find all of your guys' music and, you know, anything else you got going on that you want to share?
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Pandora. We're on like all the major streaming services. Awesome. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and it's The Deer. I think a lot of people think it's like an animal deer, but it's like deer, like DEAR. Yeah. And Mrs. is actually MISSES. Yeah. So that's
I tried doing the voice command thing. Yeah. The dear Mrs. and then it just puts MRS
right.
dot. Like, so yes, Mrs. spelled out. The dear Mrs. Check them out. They're a great local band. And thanks again for doing this, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, let's end it. Done. When your shadows talk.